By June of 1940, Adolf Hitler's conquest of Europe seemed almost inevitable, and all that stood between him and total European domination was the United Kingdom. Fortunately for him, the British were not in good shape to hold back the German blitzkrieg, and their expeditionary force had been brutally defeated during the invasion of France. Britain knew that they were next in line for an invasion, and Hitler was certain that Prime Minister Winston Churchill would sue for peace to avoid any more bloodshed. Still, if Britain refused to agree to an armistice, Hitler was prepared to execute Operation Sea Lion, an amphibious invasion of the United Kingdom, and the destruction of what the Nazi High Command considered Germany's greatest threat. Thousands of landing ships were built, troops trained, weapons prepared, and even plans to decide who would govern the new Nazi-occupied territory were outlined. If successful, Operation Sea Lion would mark the absolute triumph of Nazi Germany in the West and the beginning of the 1,000-year Reich, changing the world as we know it. Plan B. Hitler did not want to invade Britain. The dictator had great respect for the nation, and they even figured favorably in his radical racial perspective of the world. For the Führer, Britain was meant to be an ideal ally for Germany, one who might perhaps join them when the time came to destroy the Soviet Union. Hitler's main objective after the fall of France was to force the UK to adopt peace and push an armistice so he could focus on his plans in the East. It all seemed to be going according to plan, as the British expeditionary force had been obliterated during the invasion of France, leaving the island nation with virtually no heavy weapons and vehicles. As France surrendered, Great Britain was enclosed, and the UK was being strangled out of resources. To make matters worse, infantry and Royal Air Force numbers were low, and it would take months for Britain to build a significant force to even attempt an assault on Nazi Germany. Besides, its population was frustrated by defeat and disillusioned by the war. Hitler was so confident Britain would soon sue for peace that he disbanded 17 infantry divisions after conquering France, thinking that combat in the West was about to end. However, after some weeks, it became clear that Britain was not giving up, and Hitler began considering the possibility of an all-out assault on the UK. The scheme would be a Plan B, as Germany continued to pressure Britain into submission with constant air raids and nighttime city bombings that would be known as the Blitz. Still, Hitler appointed General Franz Halder, the Chief of Staff of the Army High Command, to develop a preliminary plan for an invasion across the English Channel. Inexperienced with amphibious warfare tactics, Halder began his outline with the mistaken notion that the invasion would be little more than a river-crossing attack, for which the German army had plenty of experience. However, Halder did not realize that the English Channel was one of the most treacherous and unpredictable bodies of water in the world, and schemed a broad and massive landing on the south of England that covered over 200 miles. It would take the objections of Grand Admiral Erich Raeder for Halder and Hitler to realize the impossibility of protecting such a wide landing and the erratic nature of the English Channel. Prerequisites must be met. The Kriegsmarine was gravely diminished at the time. During its previous occupations in Norway, it lost 15 light naval units, 10 destroyers, 6 U-boats, 2 torpedo boats, 2 light cruisers, and 1 heavy cruiser. All the German Navy had left were 2 battlecruisers, 2 old battleships, 4 cruisers, and a few destroyers, nearly a third of the force the Royal Navy had at its disposal, without counting 2 aircraft carriers from Britain. Raeder could not guarantee a safe crossing for the German troops with those numbers, and the only way they could better the odds was to conduct a much narrower invasion. However, Halder was utterly opposed to the idea of a slim invasion, as it would mean the number of soldiers would be much lower and casualties much higher. To make matters worse, the Kriegsmarine had no landing vessels capable of delivering the number of troops needed into the beachheads of southern England, and Raeder concluded that the operation was too risky and unfeasible at the moment. However, Hitler was infuriated by Britain's continued refusal to accept peace and decided to overrule the Grand Admiral. On July 16, 1940, he issued Directive 16, which immediately commenced preparations for Operation Sea Lion, under which the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army had 1 month to get ready for invasion. Wehrmacht commanders agreed that in order to succeed, Operation Sea Lion would have to meet 4 specific prerequisites. Germany would need to have complete aerial supremacy over the English Channel and the south of England, in addition to naval superiority. Also, appropriate amphibious equipment would have to be built, and weather and water conditions in the English Channel would have to be optimal. Fortunately, the Luftwaffe was powerful and technologically advanced, and Hermann Göring speculated that he could achieve air superiority over the Channel within 15 to 20 days. Additionally, the Luftwaffe could tentatively overwhelm the Royal Navy, weakening it or forcing it to retreat. The matter of the Channel's condition was a complex issue, and the Army and the Navy continued to debate whether it should be a narrow or a wide landing. The wider the assault, the more the tide affected the operation. High water moved from west to east in the English Channel, and since such levels would be ideal for landing, the troops in Dover would have to land 6 hours after the troops in Lyme Regis, hence defeating the idea of a synchronized attack. In the end, both sides compromised, and a narrow invasion area between Sussex and Kent was determined to be the best choice to minimize risk. Large-scale preparations. By mid-July, both Germany and Britain were preparing for the invasion. Hitler still hoped the UK might come around and sue for peace, but an all-out attack seemed likelier by the minute. By now, the Battle of Britain was in full swing. Initially, the German campaign's primary objective had been to pressure the UK into subsiding, but now the Luftwaffe was trying to destroy the Royal Air Force in preparation for Operation Sea Lion. Germany had deployed its mighty aircraft fleets to harass British ships all along the English Channel, but Britain remained unintimidated by the Luftwaffe's boastful show of power. On July 19th, Hitler gave a speech at the Reichstag, accusing Churchill of being the only obstacle to peace in Europe, and assuring that there was no reason to continue the war. Still, Britain would not yield. Germany subsequently began to scour for river barges all across its conquered territories to desperately convert them into landing ships, as they had no access to any other kind of flat-bottom vessels. The barges were modified in Dutch, Belgian, and French ports and converted to serve as landing vehicles. However, it soon became clear that the river vessels were not fit to traverse the treacherous water of the English Channel, as they lacked the power to move efficiently. To address the barge issue, it was decided that many of the landing ships would be towed during the invasion. In contrast, many others were fitted with aircraft engines to provide them with the necessary power. In addition, some of the barges would need to be modified to carry tanks and heavy vehicles, while others would transport troops. The preparations were becoming increasingly complex, and there was no option but to postpone the invasion. The new deadline was September 15th. Meanwhile, the Luftwaffe had their work cut out for them, as they had to destroy the Royal Air Force and disable the Royal Navy in little over a month if Operation Sea Lion was to occur. The Luftwaffe conducted recurring bombing raids on British ships in the English Channel, forcing the Royal Navy to withdraw to the south of Scotland and leaving behind only smaller vessels. Still, the Navy was ready to rush into the Channel if the invasion began. Germany then prepared Operation Eagle Day, a massive attack on Royal Air Force Fighter Command targets across the British Isles in an ardent attempt to gain immediate air superiority over Britain. However, poor weather conditions forced a delay, giving the British forces more precious weeks to bolster their defenses. During this time, the UK heavily reinforced its southern coastlines while commencing the Home Guard program to enlist thousands of farmers and old men who eagerly joined the national effort. It also produced an unprecedented number of Spitfires and Hurricanes to meet the Luftwaffe's fierce challenge over the English Channel. The British even considered wild defensive tactics, such as pouring oil over the water off the southern coast and then lighting it on fire to balk Germany's landing attempts. A closing window. By August 13th, Britain was getting increasingly stronger. Moreover, the climate in the English Channel made it impossible to conduct an amphibious invasion during the last 3 months of the year, so the window for a successful attack was closing fast. Eagle Day was finally executed, and the Luftwaffe launched a colossal, coordinated attack on Royal Air Force locations across the United Kingdom. At the same time, the Battle of Britain still raged above the English Channel. By the end of August, Göring was sure he'd destroyed more than half the Royal Air Force, so perhaps Operation Sea Lion could still be executed. Yet the RAF showed no signs of weakness, and its defense of Britain was fierce and all-encompassing. They soon bombed several ports and destroyed numerous barges that were being prepared for the invasion. On September 3, 1940, after the Luftwaffe failed to destroy the RAF, Sea Lion was postponed for the 21st. It was then delayed again to the 27th by a frustrated Hitler. The conquest of Europe was so close, yet so far, and on September 15th, Germany deployed a massive and desperate last-ditch attempt to destroy the RAF. The assault became a grueling and bloody battle that would change the course of history. In the end, Germany suffered an overwhelming defeat, losing twice as many aircraft as Britain. 2 days later, Hitler postponed Operation Sea Lion indefinitely to focus instead on conquering the Soviet Union. Ultimately, the UK not only refused to negotiate with Nazi Germany, but it also withstood all attempts to pound it into submission. When all was said and done, Britain prevailed. Thank you for watching my video. What do you think the outcome of World War II would have been if Sea Lion was successful? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to all our Dark Documentaries channels for more exciting history-inspired content.